Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and welcome to Mondays with Mr. Happy, aka Mr. Happy Mondays, a weekly Q&A show where you ask me questions and I answer them. Fresh from the razor, got a few things to shore up still a little bit. I could see some little bits up here, but that's a-okay. I think we're good just for the sake of recording the weekly Q&A. It's been a week. For those who don't know, on Friday, I had a random power outage. Power came in and out, and, you know, I was waiting a couple hours for my power to come back. And when I went to boot up my PC after the power came back, it wouldn't boot up. Turns out after some troubleshooting that the power supply was the issue. Yeah, despite being a pretty expensive PC, a pretty expensive power supply, going through an uninterrupted power supply, a backup supply basically, that has a surge protector on it, I didn't expect that outcome. Fortunately, I was able to fix it. I'm recording this on that PC as a matter of fact. So thank goodness I'm very comfortable getting inside my PC and just reseating everything and replugging everything in with a new power supply, because otherwise I would be in panic mode. I do have a backup from years ago, but you know, it's not as good as my current one, so I'm glad I don't have to do that. So that's been my week. Hopefully this coming week with patch 6.2 will be a lot better. I'm planning on going live, you know, probably pretty early, maybe even by midnight. I'm gonna have to be to sleep so early today when you guys see this on Monday, because the servers could be up as early as 1 a.m. Pacific. Because there's no major content like Savage, nothing that's like race worthy, as long as it's after weekly reset, which is at 1 a.m. Pacific, it could be up anytime between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. So I'm just going to be ready for the whole thing. Not to mention, we probably won't have patch notes until pretty late in the evening. So it gives me a little bit of time to look over the job changes, make a video for you guys then. And well, yeah. And then extreme guide, normal guide, island sanctuary stuff, state of the realm. Oh man. And on top of that, I'm going to be uploading my playthrough of the story onto the VOD channel. People have been asking if I could do my Endwalker one, and I can, but I don't think I have my 6.1 playthrough available for the VOD channel. So it'd be kind of unfortunate to have that kind of gap, I suppose. But it is what it is. You know, 6.1 is pretty standard. I was just going through everything as I do on 6.1 day. And who knows, maybe I do have the footage. I'd have to double check. But that's why we have the VOD channel going forward. So I can, you know, make sure I archive these things and you guys can watch them. So keep an eye out for all that stuff. Although I'll probably do like first kills on this channel as opposed to the VOD channel. So just keep an eye out for everything. It's gonna be a crazy week. But anyway, it's already like quarter after 8 p.m. Just did a 12-hour stream with Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remaster and 3D, and then showered, ate, shaved, all that good stuff. So I want to get into the Q&A so I can kind of chill for the rest of the night before the busy week. Thank you to our sponsors over on Patreon. Before we go any further, they support the channel regardless of the fact they don't really get anything out of it. All my content is available for free here on YouTube, and that's not going to change. So if you enjoy the content, you want to be over there, great. If not, totally understand. There's really no benefits to being over there. So just want to be straight up with you like that. We also have our sponsor Steel Series. You know, we got that 12% discount code. We always do. And you guys really like it. So I like shouting it out. It's been a long time sponsor we've had with them. And also Advanced GG, our latest partner / sponsor. It's a little bit of both. And yeah, I've been just drinking their hydration formula, a little bit more electrolytes. And for early mornings like Tuesday, instead of having coffee, I'll probably have an energy supplement or two just to make things easy. Normally, I've actually been buying like canned coffees and stuff for those really early ones because I don't want to run the grinder for the coffee beans at 1 in the morning, and I don't want to grind them the night before because then they're not nearly as good the next day. So that was my solution before, and now it's Advanced GG. So we have a 30% discount code with them. If you're into gaming supplements for hydration, energy, or focus, be sure to check those out as well. Anyway, with that, let's get into the Q&A. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. I'm doing great. I hope you're all rested. Didn't say hi, but I'm glad you're doing great. Off to a good start already. Just joshing you. Doing good? I'm doing good. There you go. You asked me. All set. 2 quick questions. 1, on the last day of the run, Moonslide said you were concerned about the 1 million cap for request repairs in all instances, but never elaborated why. What is your concern? Selling clears, bidding on loot. A little bit of everything. Because so let me be clear. Exchanging gil between servers is not a difficult thing to do outside of instances as it is. But now it's been given kind of like a guise that people can use while they're inside of the instance to just say, hey, you know, come in with your gear destroyed, or, you know, just every pull that, you know, we'll wipe a few pulls, you'll ask for a few repairs, and you'll pay people out. There's like little tiny things you can do that honestly should be very easy for Square Enix to detect. The behavior should just be so obvious that people shouldn't be dumb enough to try it, but that doesn't mean they won't. That's the bottom line. And secondly, it seems like crafters are getting hammered by extreme weapons, making crafted weapons only glams with a delay. Do you think they might now or in the future do the same thing they do at the first raid tiers, where the extreme weapon and crafted are identical item level, but the latter can be overmelded? I have a feeling the answer to that is no. Ideally, crafted weapons are there for people who A, want that rush day one, B, catch-up weapons for people to grab on multiple different jobs, or C, something that they can get in place of the extreme weapon because they don't really do that level of content, but they want an item level bump. The big place the market's being hit are those day one raiders that used to try to buy them out for Savage, or even hire crafters for Savage. That market's pretty much deleted because most people aren't even going to buy them before going into the new extreme trial. They're going to wait till the prices dip after day one. So I think that's the big part of the market that's being hammered, is that first like 6 hours after the servers come up. But honestly, after that, it's probably going to level out. Crafted weapons and extreme weapons have always been available on the same day when it comes to the 0.2 and 0.4 releases at the very least. So I don't see that really changing for the vast majority of people, only for those people who are selling to day one Savage Raiders. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey Haps, hope you're well. Hello, and same to you. My question involves Endwalker events on the moon, specifically the fight that's up there. To me, it felt like the story that the fight. To me, it felt after that fight, the story shifted severely in a predictable direction. Felt, I don't know, like they were trying to flesh out a very flat character. I think if you're talking about who I think you're talking about, I don't even think they tried to do that. The individual in question gets one more scene that's very in character, and then you move on to the rest of the events on the moon. It's not really until later, around level 85, actually a little even after 85, it's like more like 87-ish, like 86, 87, where that character really gets some scenes to flush them out. And it's not even, again, about flushing them out, it's about reinforcing their ideals. So no, I don't really feel that way. I don't feel like there was any character that got just a sudden jolt of characterization on the moon other than the Loprits, which kind of needed to happen. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey Happy. Hi. First time asker. Welcome. Is there a general point where we can expect to get older trial weapons for Reaper or Sage? No. In fact, I don't think there's any expectation of that at all. They add the crafted versions of old trial weapons fairly frequently, but then they don't always introduce new weapons. It was kind of a surprise when Shinryu got some of those older weapons, and it's honestly a surprise every time it happens because it does not happen very often, or has only happened once, maybe twice. So no, there's no expectation of that, but I think the team is aware that people are kind of disappointed that there aren't more trial weapons, or more themed weapons for those older encounters. And I think we see a little bit more of it going forward, but still wouldn't have any normal expectation about when these types of things would happen. Hashtag pre-patch Mondays with Mr. Happy. The Monday, just the one. Welcome. Hello and happy pre-patch Monday to you, Mr. Happy. Hello to you as well. Do you think with the design philosophy of DPS revolving around 2-minute windows, there's space for select DPS to get a 3-minute ability? It feels really awesome to hit, even though it will only reasonably fall into the 2-minute windows twice. No, I think you'd be better off creating more 90-second abilities if you really wanted to do that. But we saw that they tried that with a couple of jobs and just ended up changing it because it just didn't mesh very well. Riddle of Wind being 90 seconds on Monk is still an incredibly strange thing. And I don't think so. However, you bring up an example I was going to bring up. I feel like with jobs that are not DPS, giving them 3-minute cooldowns that are incredibly strong and game-changing is something within reason. We see that with Benediction. We see that with Macrocosmos. I forget if Pneuma is 180 seconds as well. But abilities that are big, flashy, and have an immediately discernible effect on the raid and how they're doing, I think it's a good idea, but it should be more for utility, survival, and less for damage, because like you said, it's just going to feel bad. And honestly, it's going to probably get people to try to find a way to get that 3-minute into 2-minute windows, and then the optimization on some fights is going to get wonky. They could do it. I don't think it's going to pan out. And honestly, this whole 2-minute window thing has been kind of rough too. So I'm curious to see if they stick with that even going into 7.0. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey Happy. Hi, hope you're doing good. Doing better now that my PC's working. So I've been recently on a tangent about how I wish we can go back to how things were gear and stat-wise in 2.0, meaning not every tank, healer, and DPS are pretty much the exact same stats for best. So I've been missing this and actually making different builds for all classes. The only thing that was different, I'm going to be honest with you, is every class needed to get an accuracy cap before doing the things they're doing now. That's it. Nothing else has changed. And I'm going to be honest, accuracy, don't bring it back. bad idea. That's not to say they couldn't do more with itemization, but I honestly have given to not care. I care about the content more than the gear, and I'm kind of glad because I'd rather have more interesting and fun content than have to worry about, like, just to list a few things that they could possibly do. Gear augments, more stats, balancing, randomized stat loots on everything. I wouldn't take any of that and mix any of that in as opposed to just having good content to do, personally. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Happy. First off, thank you for all the great guides and fun videos. First off, thank you. Let's move to the question. I want to get into Savage's tier, but I'm somewhat confused by the gear progression. If you want to start raiding, how would you gear up? You buy all the crafted gear and then you go raid. That's honestly it. A full set of crafted gear is enough to beat the whole tier. The new crafted gear that'll come out in the even numbered patch. It'll be item level 610. And the item level that is, recommended for the whole tier never goes above 610. Having an extreme trial weapon is great. If you're a little bit slower on getting into the raid or you're not clearing it as quickly, your weekly cap tomestones are always going to be good. And then when odd numbered patches come around, you've got more access to tomestone upgrade materials. You've got more access to crafted gear upgrades. You've got the 24-man, but that's months and months and months down the line. So realistically, I would just get all the crafted gear in extreme and then meld it as well. You don't even have to over meld it, but make sure you meld it and you should be good. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey, Haps. First time ask here. Welcome. Hope you're well rested if you're recording this after another count-up stream. I am, but, the shower I took to wash off all the hair off my face and head, freshened me up a little bit. Bit of a tangent. Second person to have a tangent here. Recently watched Mog Talk and noticed you were having audio issues with the DualSense in Rise. With the DualSense in Rise? In Monster Hunter Rise? Was I? I just want to let you know Windows is messed up. I haven't had a problem set to disable controller speakers. Yeah, because I unplug and replug it, that setting gets refreshed because Windows is dumb. On to the actual question. Are static as the current BIS pieces and are aiming for a more casual 1.5 month prog of the BISOs. Would you generally recommend skipping crafted gear altogether? No, because the first week, what I would recommend is waiting until it's cheap and then buying it, not buying it, 4 hours within the first 4 hours after the patch comes up. But no, it's still such a huge benefit. I mean, it's a 10 item level bump in your first couple of weeks. And if you can help yourself beat those first couple of fights in those first couple of weeks, even in a 1.5 month prog setting, then that's more gear that you're going to have access to every week, which will help accelerate the rest of your prog, maybe even faster than you're expecting. So I would honestly just say, yeah, everyone should have it. Just don't worry about pentamelding. Just get it and meld the guaranteed slots. If anyone wants the pentameld to go ahead, but otherwise it's just no rush. And yeah, you can fill in some things with normal mode. If you're not going to be over melding, that gives you a bit more leeway to look at what normal mode pieces are a good option. If there are any that would just outright replace the crafted set because they have better itemization, you can do that. You can take it slow and actually do the research, but there's no reason to not get crafted gear altogether. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hey there, Haps. Hi. How do you feel about the theory Scarmiglione is the actual trial fight and also the final boss? Yeah, I've spoken about this pretty much every week, I think, that we've had on Mondays with Mr. Happy in the last month and a half. I actually think, tinfoil hat theory, it's more complicated than that. So in Final Fantasy IV, Scarmiglione initially shows up as this kind of hunchback robed figure. And then after you beat him, he says, death doesn't affect me. And then he transforms into the Scarmiglione we see in the trailer. So the Scarmiglione in the trailer is the dungeon boss. I think they're going to be giving the 4 Archfiends a new form, and that will be the trial fight. I think that's why they don't want to show anybody. It's not because it's going to be a surprise. And keep in mind, I would still believe anything. I've gone back and forth about what the possibilities are. I just think Scarmiglione is the most common sense thing, but then why would they hide it if we already know we're getting Scarmiglione? Well, if it's still going to be him, new form. He dies, he goes through some transformation, and that's our trial. They're going to be giving all the Archfiends some new form. Now, there is the possibility that we're going to beat Scarmiglione and then we'll have to fight Cagnazzo, or we're going to beat Scarmiglione and Golbez is going to show up and be the surprise first trial, or Estinian's going to get brainwashed and it's going to be him. There's literally so many possibilities that fall in line with Final Fantasy IV's lore, not to mention the possibility that they do something completely different. I think the book is wide open on this one, even if the most common sense plays are what really scream to us most. And Scarmiglione being the dungeon boss and the trial boss is probably the most common theory out there. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Hey, Haps, hope you're doing well. Same to you. With the Dragoon rework coming next expansion, do you see them changing Dragonsight to work like Dancer? You can set a partner. People have talked about this for years. I figured they would have done this ages ago. But at this point, I don't think that's going to happen. Just because it so could have happened by now. There's no reason it couldn't have happened by now. Why hasn't it if they were going to do it? I think it's more likely they would just change the whole skill. Or even axe it and just put something else in than do this whole dance partner thing. Because why wouldn't it have happened already? It just blows my mind, you know? So I think they do want to address the macro issue, as you've suggested, but I don't think it'll be the simplest way to fix it that I think they could use. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Mr. Happy. Hello. I was wondering about your opinion on if Top 100 PvP could return as a series rank award. So, funny thing is, I have been mulling over how they could improve seasonal rank rewards, and among them is the idea of all ranked PvP players getting the same reward, however, some form of insignia on it that designates the rank you ended the season in. For example, let's say that Season 3 has an armor set. You know, it doesn't. We already know that it doesn't, but I guess I'll say Season 4. Let's just you know, predict, oh, Season 4, it's going to have this sweet new armor set that's exclusive to the ranked PvPers, but even a bronze player could earn it. If you're bronze tag on the shoulder. If you're silver tag on the shoulder. Gold, platinum, diamond, crystal, top 100, top 1. I don't think we're ever going to see strictly top 100 only rewards like mounts or armor ever again. I think it's just more likely they'll come up with a reward that changes slightly depending on the rank that you end, but everyone still gets it. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hope you and your mom are doing better. Not a hello, but you know what? It's good wishes, so I'll accept it, and I hope you're doing well also. With us venturing into Final Fantasy IV territory, what installment in the series would you want to see? As in which is the next? Maybe we'll see either the Void or future content. I'm not particular. There are elements of Final Fantasy I would be more excited to see, but I like when Final Fantasy XIV is just throwing something at me, explaining why it makes sense, and doing it kind of seamlessly. Things like the Crystal Tower, things like the Shadows of Mach, things like Return to Ivalice. Is it screaming with references? Yes. Is it something that is nostalgia bait almost for a Final Fantasy fan? Absolutely. But when it's entered into the world tastefully, incorporated well, it doesn't matter to me what Final Fantasy it actually comes from, because Final Fantasy XIV has proven that even with some of my less liked titles, they will incorporate it in a way that is just chef's kiss. So no, I don't have one I would prefer to see. I'm excited to see what they do, however. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Hopefully you are as well. Just a quick question that's more so a curiosity is what you think. Considering all 4 healers in the game have access to repose, do you think Square will ever design a mechanic in Savage which requires its usage? I don't think it's out of the question. I think they would sooner create an indicator that that's how the mechanic is intended to be done. There are the possibilities of ad phases where, as a player base, we try Repose, we try Heavy, we try Bind, we try Stun. Something like E8S, you know, with the ads. We tried every form of CC on those things when we saw how fast they moved. And yeah, we managed to make it make sense. In a situation like that, maybe. But if they wanted specifically Repose and only Repose, I think they would want to create some sort of indicator that that's what they wanted. So if it comes with an indicator, then sure, you know, all 4 healers have access to it like you've stated, so it's not like it would be something that someone might not have. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Haps. Hi. Since you're doing some mod randomizer stuff for the older Final Fantasy games as part of Count Up, will you be playing any of the mods like New Threat or Alternate Fantasy, which keep the core experience or have a few changes? New Threat is not a few changes. I played through version 1.1, I want to say, of New Threat, not 2.0. I have no idea what's different in 2.0, but I can tell you Sega Chief, the guy who made the first one, he's got a lot of passion for that project. I wish he had more interest in Final Fantasy VIII. He started a Final Fantasy VIII New Threat, but kind of just abandoned it because I think Final Fantasy VII New Threat and fine-tuning that was something... I don't know, I just get the feeling like he was just more passionate about that. But maybe one day he'll get around to that Final Fantasy VIII New Threat as well. I'm not going to say no, because I've already started incorporating new things into Count Up while I've been doing it. But at the moment, that's not the plan. New Threat was a great experience. I don't know that I want to do that experience again. And I don't know that I want to play through Final Fantasy VII multiple times right now. It's just, to be honest, Final Fantasy 7 and 9, the 2 games you gave me an example for, I'm not wild about. You know, the PlayStation 1 era of Final Fantasy game, I feel like is the one I have the hardest time going back to. It's the first 3 Final Fantasy games I owned and played. I owned 8, I saw 7 first, so I played 8, 7, 9, 5, 6. Those are the first 5 Final Fantasies. Then, you know, I had Origin, I had 10, and then I pretty much went from there. Eventually playing 3 and 4, going back to like, you know, PSP versions or DS versions or Steam or whatever. But I just don't look back fondly on it. So it's going to depend how I'm feeling, because Final Fantasy VII is almost certainly getting a playthrough of itself and remake, and then also integrate, and then Crisis Core is going to come out this coming winter. So there's going to be a lot of 7. But I won't say no, because New Threat was really good, and maybe alternate fantasy makes Final Fantasy IX tolerable for me. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hey Hap, hi. Just a quick question for you. Sure, how come they don't show job changes in the preliminary notes? Are they afraid people won't like the changes and complain about them on social media? They're more afraid that the less time between people seeing a change and then getting to play it means less kind of blind complaining. So when you give the preliminary patch notes, which are on Friday, you have the rest of Friday, then Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the servers come up early on Tuesday. All of that time, you're gonna have people doing this this napkin math and or this vacuum math. Basically, if you were to have 100% completely ideal and optimal positions, this is the percentage gain or loss that this buffer nerf is going to provide. Almost every single time that has happened, and it's circulated in a few days before a patch becomes available, people freak out. And then the server goes live and it ends up being either a completely reasonable thing or something that is not really as severe as they thought. So they just got sick of it, and I don't blame them. I hate vacuum math so much. It is not applicable to any reasonable circumstance, but people use it as the basis for their complaints. And it's dumb. It's not worthless math, but it's worthless in the context with which people have learned to use it. It's like FF logs. It's like people don't understand how to use that information and bring it to a discussion. They just go, number changed, I'm mad, or that's amazing. And that's it. It's like fucking caveman brain, and it blows my mind. So that's the main reason why. All right, well, that's one line. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Well met, Mr. Happy. Hello. What are your top 4 favorite single-player RPGs? Well, Final Fantasy is almost completely going to dominate that list. Because honestly, when I play a lot of other single-player RPGs, I don't often have that much of a connection to them. That's not to say I haven't played some great ones, but it's really hard for me to name 4 favorites that are just not part of a franchise. Dragon Quest XI, fantastic. I loved it. Triangle Strategy, absolutely loved it. Octopath Traveler, absolutely loved it. Playing Champions of the Continent as we speak, as a matter of fact. What else? And then obviously I've played all the Final Fantasy games. I've dabbled in other things like the Xenoblade Chronicles series. I'm trying to even think, because like I've played like so many here or there, and then you also have to consider Pokemon being an RPG, which, you know, I skipped 4 generations, but I played 1 and 2 religiously, and I played 7 and 8, and gonna be playing Scarlet and Violet. So I don't think I can name a top 4. I don't think about the rest of the games outside of the Final Fantasy franchise as what's my top, what's my favorite. I'm sure if I really sat down and thought about it, I could probably nail out a list. Chrono Trigger as well. Man, there's just so many. But there's also a ton I haven't played. So, you know, my library is probably more limited than a lot of other really hardcore RPG people, because I've been kind of entrapped within Final Fantasy, mostly due to 11 and 14, but also just my own doing. So, I don't have a great answer, but those are just a few other non-Final Fantasy games that I have a great deal of love for. Quick lightning round as a pretext to this question. Someone asked me about crafting guides. I'm useless in that regard. Ash10 is the only person that I ever pay attention to with crafting stuff. So Ash10, A-S-H-E-10. I think he also does X's before and after the name. So XX Ash10 XX. I think that's what he does for YouTube now. He's the only person I pay attention to. And I almost never even watch those because I don't do any crafting or gathering. So sorry, Ash. It's just, I don't do it. So, but you're the recommendation. Okay. Next question anyway. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hi, Happy. Hi. Hope you're doing well. Same to you. Want to play Final Fantasy IV, and it will be my first playthrough. Is the Pixel Remaster a good place to start, or do you think I should start with a different port? It's one of the best ports that you could choose to start with. The other options, if you had of them available to you, would be PSP. I think there's a GBA version that's similar to the PSP version. And honestly, the 3D, I don't recommend starting with the 3D. I'm playing through Final Fantasy IV 3D right now, and there are some systems there. I realized why I don't prefer Final Fantasy IV 3D. I don't think it's bad. It's not like Final Fantasy 3 3D, which is awful. Final Fantasy IV 3D is a fine port. It's got voice acting. It's got some new gameplay elements. You can play it to be a little bit harder than a lot of the other versions. It's got a lot of positives to it. It could totally be someone's preferred, and I would, not bat an eye at it. But for me, certain gameplay elements like the augments and how you unlock them and the visibility of treasures on the map, there's a lot of things that are better if you already know how Final Fantasy IV works and can then build on that. So that's the only version I'd say you maybe would play second as opposed to first. The Pixel Remaster, though, perfectly fine version, has all the vanilla content, is straightforward and easy to understand, and still moderately difficult. I think Final Fantasy IV is one of the easier Final Fantasies, but there's a few sections as you play through that are just atrociously difficult that you'll be glad you didn't play the harder version like the 3D version in that time. So yeah, Pixel Remaster is just fine. Hashtag Mr. Happy Monday. Good day and evening to you, Happy. Good day and evening to you as well. Hope life as well as we prepare for 6.2. It's doing better now than it was 2 days ago. While watching your video about the 6.2 promo set, your comment about the book claim got me wondering, do you think you'll ever change Summoner from using a book or tome as a weapon? No. Could they? Absolutely. I'm no one to dictate what they can or can't do. They have not shown ever a propensity for doing something like that. The closest we've seen is them initially offering Black Mage and White Mage, I suppose, to have either a staff or a wand and a shield. And they did away with the wand and shield thing super quick. So I don't think so. Would it be cool? Yeah, sure. I wouldn't hate it, but they'd have to change so many items already in the game that I just don't think it's a decision they're ever going to make. Hashtag Mr. Happy Mondays. Hello, Haps. What's for breakfast? That's a good question. I should have a good breakfast by the time you guys see this. How about a breakfast burrito with like some chorizo and potato and cheese and a couple of scrambled eggs in there. Dip it in a little salsa with a tortilla, all wrapped in a tortilla. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe by the time you watch this, that's what I'll be eating. With the Savage delay coming out 1 week before... Wait. Okay, so with the Savage being delayed by 1 week, will it be wise to use the gold certificate that I recently got from Wondrous Tales, or would it be better to save? If you cannot get somebody to commit to paying 10 million gil before you spend the gold certificate, meaning you line up a buyer, they say, yes, I will buy it from you for at least this much, then I would just get a mount. I would get the new mount. I mean, we've already seen there's going to be a new mount. Maybe it'll also be available from Fox Leaves, but if you can sell that shit right away, I would. I mean, that's minimum 10. The last time there was a new mount from Certs or from Fox Leaves, I sold it for 20 million in 10 minutes. Probably could have sold it for more. And if it's exclusive to Gold Certs and not available with Fox Leaves, or Faux Leaves, whatever you prefer, then you could sell it for way more than 20 million gil. So I think you'll make more money on the mount than you will on the 5-slotted crafted stuff. Just my personal opinion. Lunes Con, Senor Feliz. Happy Monday. Mondays with Mr. Happy is what that says. Hello, it's been a while since I asked a question, so here I am. Quick and easy one for you. Got it. I have a buddy who's interested in playing the game. Cool. I told him that he can play through the entirety of A Realm Reborn in the award-winning critically acclaimed award-winning Heavensward expansion up to level 60 for free with no restrictions on playtime. Anything else I should tell him? I did warn him the beginning being a bit slow. I would say focus on warnings as little as possible. Answer questions as much as possible. The more you feed somebody a pretense, a preamble, an expectation, the more they're thinking about it, the less they're kind of concerned about their personal experience. Whereas if you answer questions instead, then you're going to find that you can help paint a picture for them as they go. I just think that's a way better experience for a new player than being told, hey, do this, that, here's what to expect. Yeah, instead of just letting them be a gamer. And sometimes people do need that. Some people do need the preamble, but that's just my own personal thought process on it. All right, while I was answering that last question, I actually started to kind of zone out a little bit. So I'm going to lightning round the rest because it's a lot of the questions being mixed in with comments, and some of the comments have questions in them. So I'm just going to read through the rest, and we're going to do this kind of as the lightning round at the end. Someone asked if I'm tired today. No, today I wasn't. Right now that it's almost 9 p.m. Now I'm getting a little tired. I go to bed kind of early. Think they'll do anything with new Grand Company ranks? No, they said unless they're going to come out with content that correlates with it, you probably never see Grand Company ranks, new ones again. So I wouldn't expect it anytime soon. There's a comment about the whole, it's been 1 year since the events of the game began, since A Realm Reborn began. And there's also comments about The Rising, which talks about how it's been 7 years since Dalamud fell. You're referring to a scene in which Yoshi P, not the Wandering Minstrel, every year he comes out and says it's been 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. He's not referring to the in-game events. He's not canon inside of Final Fantasy XIV's universe, at least not Yoshi P himself. The Wandering Minstrel is his like in-canon representation. But this whole scene with Yoshi P is not canon to the lore. He is speaking to the player directly and referring to it in our real life years. So that's not an indication of lore. But yes, again, I wish I could remember which NPC in Endwalker specifically says it's been about a year since A Realm Reborn, because it absolutely happens, and other people have acknowledged they remember it happening, and I don't think this is a Berenstain Bears kind of situation here. So it's just a matter of I'm not putting in the effort to go find it, because there's so much text in the game. What the hell are shinies? So in Pokemon, there is a subset of rare Pokemon that appear 1 in thousands of a chance every time you encounter one, that it'll be a different color scheme and it'll sparkle. We call those shinies. They have hinted that on the Island Sanctuary, there would be rare creatures that might have different color schemes, and thus I'm just taking the vernacular from Pokemon and applying it to their statements for Island Sanctuary. They haven't said anything about it since they initially mentioned it, so we'll wait to see. What's your thoughts on the theory that the female Reaper in the 6.2 trailer could be the Warrior Life's reflection? No, I don't think so. I think there's something else. I think there's something, they're a person we don't know and haven't known and have no correlation with prior to this moment, but there are a lot of possibilities with them. So I think it's reckless for me to say any which way, but I wouldn't subscribe to that theory. I'd sooner subscribe to a few different ones than that one. What is your current favorite meme? I don't have a current favorite. Honestly, the meme that is completely out of date, but I still love actually, is the what's the name of that fireman show that Andy Samberg was on with Zooey Deschanel? I never actually watched it. It was like Brooklyn something 90. I don't remember. Where he's like, oh yeah, she's like, oh yeah, you're a fan of this, name 10 of this, and then he says one thing, and it's like, oh, I set the bar too low. That's a big one. It's like, oh yeah, you're a real fan of Final Fantasy, name me 10 characters from Final Fantasy. Sid. That's on me, I made the bar too low. that's one that doesn't get used a lot, but it's one of my personal favorites. What's your thoughts on the theory that oh no, I just read that one. Is there any reason you like greetings so much? It's just that it's polite. It's just that it's polite. I feel like it's the internet, and a lot of us forego kind of that politeness. We see people who just rush. I'm just going to ask the question. I'm not going to even say hello. I like the pretense of a hello. It's weird not having a hello. Not to mention that the other bits of manners, I suppose you can call them, I see on the internet are, they're not super great. So I just like to encourage that positive behavior, that more social behavior of having a proper greeting and, starting the conversation on that positive note. It's nice. It's nice. Do you believe that people are simply can't do high-end content? Yes. I don't think it's that they actually can't do it. It's more so that they have like the perfect combination of mindsets and average skill that they eliminate themselves. They're like, oh, I can't do it. Well, you probably could if you practiced. Yeah, but that's too stressful. Okay, but if you don't think about it too much, it's like, it's not going to happen. Like, they defeat themselves before they ever do it. It's almost impossible that those people turn it around and actually get into it. It happens, but some people are just so deep in that mental, like, downside, that like downslide, I suppose, that they just stop themselves from ever doing it. And yeah, then they can't ever do it. That's all there is to it. And some people also just have like other personality traits that either make them difficult to play alongside, so people don't want to, or it stops them from really picking up and learning things at a pace that allows them to feel like they're making progress. And then again, self-defeatism kind of kicks in and whatnot. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Not a hello, but I'll take it. Just wondering if they ever put tank DPS healer statues or something that as blue mages could mimic off of. Not a bad idea. I like that suggestion because it's kind of awkward going and just finding random people in the cities. It's also kind of it's a little ridiculous, but it's also kind of funny. So, maybe that's why they don't do it. But I don't think that's a bad idea to add just a dummy for you to pull off of. I think that's perfectly acceptable. Hello and good day. I have a housing question. I don't know if I'm any use then. See, some districts are almost completely owned by a single FC. I see plots and private wards owned by FCs and plots and FC wards owned by individuals. I think any of that was permissible. It's, yeah, you cannot own an FC plot as an individual. You have to, yeah. So generally plots become available as FC plots first, and then anything left over after a period of time becomes an individual plot. So you'll see those mixed. However, the one FC owning a whole plot is usually an abuse of a system. It's one FC making a bunch of different alts, or, you know, they're boosting FCs with similar names and then just taking every single house they can get. It's really scummy behavior that Square Enix does not do enough about, but what are you going to do? Until Square Enix starts acting against it, then, you know, it's no more powerful than we were before. Then we have just cleared my first Savage tier. Grats, just in time. Have they decided or considered giving us more Waymarker slots? I would love it. You mean the 5 slots we get to play? Please. They haven't mentioned it, but please do. Please do. I was watching some streamers go through MSQ. It really hit me how long it takes to get from A Realm Reborn to 6.1. Not even mentioning the side content. We're starting to talk about 200 to 300 hours to complete MSQ. It will only ever go up. They have said they want to come up with better solutions to get people there a little bit faster. Maybe the ability to kind of jump to like a baseline point. And they have strongly considered making that eventually 6.1. Just giving people kind of like a movie they have to sit down and watch that explains all the events that have led up to that point. And it's, you know, an hour-long movie versus, you know... And technically, honestly, it's not even a bad idea. Imagine you buy a game, and you know that there's this, like, 200, 300-plus hour MSQ. But then they sit down and say, hey, for your box cost, not only do you get access to the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV, we're going to give you a movie you can sit down and watch with, like, popcorn and shit. Most people wouldn't be into it. Nobody wants to buy a game and start with 2 hours of cutscenes unless you were a fan of... I was gonna make a joke. What's the name again? Unless you're a fan of Metal Gear Solid, I guess is what I was gonna say. But very specific. I was gonna expand it past that, but you know where I'm going. Yeah. So we might see something like that in the future, but we don't know what those plans are. They've only acknowledged it will eventually be a problem. You can edit the VOD. You can just edit the VOD of the MSQ stuff cut out. It's not even about dead air. I move through the MSQ very quickly. It's about while I'm watching events. Not anything happening because I'm just sitting there trying to absorb it all. Like literally, I'm talking about like 30-minute chunks of me having just the occasional comment of like the most major scenes because I'm sitting there trying to like, I'm enraptured by it. So that's why. But I mean, I might as well just post it to the VOD channel sooner or later, like I talked about earlier. How do you feel about time management as a party? As a tank, I usually assume the party will move as fast as I can, but recently, tank sets the pace, healer keeps the pace, DPS support the pace. I know it sounds a little backwards because healers you'd think would support the pace and DPS set it or maintain it. But every element has to come together or it's just not worth pulling big. You know, if you have really bad DPS, you run through all your cooldowns and then the healer starts getting stressed out. If, you know, you're a DPS who wants to pull everything big, but the tank is just horrible at cooldown management, or if you're the healer and the tank is horrible at cooldown management, then it all falls apart because then they die or they don't do as well or the healer can't really contribute as much. And it all just falls apart. So it's not even about time management. It's about skill and just basic understanding of the game and how to play it. So that's just on every player, or, you know, bits and pieces tend to fall apart. I literally, not too long ago, I went through a dungeon as a healer, and I would pull aggro off a mob while we were running to the thing, because I'll like dot the mobs and then maybe like a scholar throw Ruin 2s out as we're running, or maybe even like stutter cast a broil. And I just had aggro the whole time. I stood on the tank, meaning he should have been AoEing, right, and hitting the mobs, but instead I just died to auto attacks after like 25 seconds. I was like, what the heck? How did I die to an auto? I'm standing on the tank. How are they not hitting this mob? Made me feel like they were upset that I pulled aggro from them while we were running to the end of the pull, and that they like just didn't try to save me, or they deliberately shirked me or something. I have no idea, but don't do that. Just AoE the mobs, idiot. This is a 6.2 question. What is your delusion? You mean, what is my prediction? I'm not trying to think about it too hard for 6.2. There's too many different possible elements for me to make any serious prediction with how little context there is. Let's see. And there's a few comments about reaction style content. Some agreeing, some not agreeing. Yeah, I'm super in my head about it. It's low hanging fruit. But again, people have pointed out to me with reaction content that it's not always just about taking somebody else's content and making it your own. It's creating essentially a point of discussion amongst your own community where people who are interested in it can go and talk with other people who they know are already interested in this creator, see what their thoughts are and agree or disagree and yada yada. It's just, I miss the days of largely creating or covering news. And I feel like what other creators make can be news, but it's often not for the greatest of reasons, as we've recently seen with one particular situation regarding Elden Ring. It's just, it's such a weird landscape that just feels so unnatural, you know? Just to insert yourself into a topic, that making a whole video about that other person's topic. It's another thing if that person like shares something that's like really vital information. Like I'll give you an example. When I was doing Final Fantasy 15 coverage, I got access to a book, and it was a book that wasn't by any means private. I wasn't told to keep it a secret or anything. But in the book, it makes mention of a section that talks about the DLCs. And it talks about Gilgamesh. And I'm like, oh, so our Gladio DLC is going to be Gilgamesh. And so I made a video about that. And then that gets reported on by a bunch of sites, by other YouTubers and whatnot. And but that doesn't feel exploitive. I feel like it's just spreading news that has been covered. Whereas if somebody makes something original, they work super hard on it, and then you just get a bunch of views off watching it and talking about it a little bit, adding in maybe a funny comment here or there, a perspective per se. It walks a line. It's very difficult to comprehend and understand. There are good ways to do it, and there are exploitive ways to do it. But sometimes when it's just straight up reaction, it just feels like it walks that line. That's why it's a little weird. That's why I'm doing it right now very seldomly, as opposed to like cranking them out all the time about everything I possibly can. It needs to be something I genuinely feel like I want to have a discussion about. Like if I could make a video about this topic, but I can use this as a preamble for the discussion and why I'm actually doing it. I tried to start doing New Game Plus to see Praetorium changes. Didn't realize you have to start from level 35 quest. Were there any interesting changes to the lore before we got into the new Panda series? There's no changes to the lore. The La Habrea fight itself is just way better now. I think it better represents La Habrea as an Ascian, as a threat, and kind of what our place is as the Warrior of Light. But it's not really new lore, per se. Then there's a question of the guards about shield and mitigation. Happy seemed a bit confused. Some games have both of these mechanics completely separate, such as a shield gets absolutely no benefit. Yeah, I've never seen that. I've never seen a game where your shield gains damage mitigation versus the character reduces damage taken and then the shield is overwritten. It's got to be something old school, because I've never once seen a game where a shield that absorbs damage is directly affected by mitigation, as opposed to your character mitigating some of the damage and that being reflected in the amount of damage the shield takes. I've never seen that. I'm sure it's out there, but I've never seen it before. Instead of doing React content, you can watch their stuff and analyze it. That is a reaction. The problem is, like I just said, it encompasses such a wide scope that ranges between meaningful discussion and exploitive lazy behavior, and it's a tough line. But yeah, that's what a discussion is. That's the whole point of reacting, and it doesn't make it feel any less weird. I think we've almost got the no question is offering good luck on the new content, and I think it's that. I think that's it. There you go. So with that, that's going to be it for this week's episode of Mondays with Mr. Happy. Thank you for watching this week's episode. If you have a question, add it to the comment section of the video below. And be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and check out the sponsors for the channel and the video itself. But with that, I'm going to chill out for the rest of the evening, get this rendered, and then chill out for the rest of the evening. And that's going to be a good time. Be on the lookout for all the 6.2 content. Until then, you have a good one. Take care.